So today I'm with Duncan Wardle, former Vice President for Innovation and Creativity at Walt Disney Company. Kind of obviously the last year and a half has been interesting. What's the one question that you found yourself answering again and again and again from everyone over the past year?
The one is, how do we innovate in a virtual environment? How do we create, how do we collaborate in a virtual environment? Because I think people are finding that tough because we've been forced into it, right? And so I think that's probably the biggest question you get asked is, how do we do what we used to do when we're not there in person? But the truth is the technology has always been there. We've just refused or been, 12 months ago, none of us has used the Zoom more than once a year. Now we can't stand it. But now there's amazing platforms. I mean, I did a training workshop last week in Spatial. I don't know if you know Spatial, but I put my Oculus headset in, off I went. There were people from all around the world. We were there for 3 hours and it was stunning. And so this lady walks up to me, she's in Johannesburg, I'm in Orlando. She walks up to me with a virtual pen, which didn't exist, or neither did her virtual hand, hands me this virtual pen. I take it out of her hand with my virtual hand, right on a virtual Post-it note, none of which existed, and handed about the virtual pen. You thought, whoa. Now, fast forward. Are we going back to the office? No, I don't believe we are. 12 months ago, we used to go to restaurants. Now it's called, at least in the States, it's Uber Eats. Supermarkets, Instacart. Gyms, Peloton. Movie theaters, Disney Plus. Offices, Zoom. The move to virtual will come much faster than anybody thinks for a couple of reasons. One, Google, Microsoft HoloLens, and Facebook Oculus have all announced that big bulky headset that looks like the old brick phone will be a pair of glasses in less than 18 months from now. If you don't think that threatens the physical environment, you're wrong. It does. And now you have to look back 15 years. We've had Ebola, bird flu, H1N1, SARS, and COVID. So you can pretty much bet yourself that somewhere in the next 3 years, somewhere, it may not be global, there will be another super virus or whatever they call them these days. And so the shift to virtual is going to come much, much faster than any of us probably wanted. But the technology is there.
Duncan, kind of having had the privilege of going on the journey with you over the last year and seeing what we've done, it's been amazing. What was your mindset over the fact that you just kind of jumped into it rather than tentatively put your foot into it?
It was easy. I think most businesses don't necessarily have a burning platform. What they do now, because if you think you're going back to business as usual in a post-pandemic world, you're not. If you think you could pivot your way out, you can't. You have to reinvent yourself. And so this was my fourth bedroom a year ago. It's now a full broadcast television studio. I can appear as I can now speak in 37 different languages through an artificial intelligence robot. You get to pick your language and it just scrolls as subtitles, which again opens up new markets to me. I started to experiment. I just started to think, okay, what will this industry look like 3 to 5 years from today? I believe 5 years from today, if you fly 1,000 people to a conference anywhere, you will be crucified for your carbon emissions. So I do believe the industry will move virtual. How quickly? I don't know. I've seen a lot of hybrids coming up. They're like, well, could you do half of our audience are going to be online, half are going to be on the stage. So I'm just trying to figure out, again, I'm just piloting. I think it's just a question of having give it a go. I think, risk taking.
I love that. So tell me, so kind of how much do you equate, or how much is risk part of innovation and creativity?
Look at the most innovative companies in the world. If you were to name one or two, you go, okay, who do I think of as innovative? Richard Branson. Yeah. Do you ever hear Sir Richard described as a CEO? Never. We always call him an entrepreneur. No, he's not. He's a CEO of a multinational company. Now think of all the Virgin products and services that have been created in the last 20 years that don't exist anymore. Virgin Cola, Virgin Vodka, Virgin Wedding Services, Virgin. But you know what? He's not considered an unsuccessful entrepreneur. And now look at Amazon. Look at the amount of services they've created that don't exist anymore. There has to be a tolerance of failure and risk. I fail. First act in learning.
So what's the worst bit of advice you've ever been given about innovation and creativity?
The worst bit, that's a good one. So worst piece of advice. So here's the one. No, I've heard it every single year. You're not creative. You work in finance, you work in insurance, you work in legal, you work in sales, you work in marketing. You're not creative. Oh, the creatives. Oh, yeah. They wear black. Sorry. And they're on the wrong choice. And they work on the second floor. Oh, for God's sake, we were all born creative, right? When you were a little kid and you got a present for your birthday and it came in an enormous box, and because you were so small the box was as big as you were, right? Or your mum got the deep freeze with the box in, and you played with the toy for about a day, but you actually spend the next week playing with the box, not the toy. Why? Because your imagination could take you anywhere you wanted to go. The challenge is this: school. The number one killer The number one killer of creativity. What happens on your first day in first grade? Don't forget to color in between the lines. And so we're all born creative, right? We're all born with an amazing intuition. You have 100 billion neurons up here. You have 100 million neurons here, right? And then we're told, well, you can't use it. Well, but your consumers make most of their decisions when they went with their gut here, every single day. It's a much more powerful computer than people give it credit for. We're all born curious. Your small children go, why? Because they know you lied the first time. That's why. They're very good at getting to the core consumer truth. They're very good at getting to the insight for innovation. Well, what I mean by that is this. Our data is very good today, and it's getting better and better and better. And we rely on it more and more and more. But sometimes you've got to challenge even your own data. So data only today goes to the first or second why. But that insight for innovation or the core consumer often comes on the fourth or fifth why. If I were to survey people today and ask 5,000 people, why do you go to Disney on holiday? The number one answer is going to be, I go for the rides. Well, that informs me to spend a couple of $100 million on a capital investment strategy. But if I pause for a second and go, well, why do you go for the rides? Well, I like It's a Small World. Why on earth do you like It's a Small World? I like the music. Why on earth do you like the music? Well, it reminds me of the time we used to go with my mum every summer. Why is that significant to you so many years later? I take my daughter now. On the fourth or fifth why, you've just got to the core consumer truth. It has nothing to do with the capital investment strategy whatsoever, and everything to do with that person's personal nostalgia and memories. That's a communication campaign. But we tend to stop at the first why. Therefore, the things that we were born with, that we were told weren't important, told to stop asking why, told to color in between the lines, etc., will actually be the most employable skill sets for the next decade, simply because they can't be programmed. Analysis, strategy, accounting, finance, all that side of the brain, that can be programmed. But the very things that are innate within us as humans are further away from being programmed, and therefore they are the things we need to bring back out of the cupboard. And as we look to employ people, those are, I believe, the skill sets we should be looking for.
Okay, so if I gave you kind of your privileged piece in a room full of school teachers and parents, what would be the one thing you wanted them to do in terms of unlearning those skills of kind of nurturing your children to be conformist?
So let me ask you a question. Where are you usually, and what are you doing when you get your best ideas?
Me, probably either out for a walk or in the shower.
Yeah, we're going to hear shower, walking, commuting, gardening, large glass of something, anything except the words at work. You never hear the words at work. Well, that's a challenge, isn't it? Because we're paid to have big ideas at work. So you think, well, why can't I have big ideas at work? Well, now close your eyes. Picture that last verbal argument you were in with somebody, a bit angry at them. You can't stand, I can't never work with that guy again. You walk out of the office, you're walking away from them, and within less than 2 minutes of walking away from them, what just popped into your head? Totally spontaneously.
Kind of like the resolution or calmness, one of the two.
Or the killer one-liner that you wish you'd used during the perfect comeback line. Oh yeah, if I'd have said that, I'd have had it. Oh yeah.
Yes. I have the guilt of
okay.
and I get. But if I'd done this,
yeah. So, but why doesn't it never come to us during? Why is it always 2 minutes after the argument? Because in an argument, your brain is like this, very busy. Guess what your brain looks like in the office? Meeting, weekly report, compliance training, Zoom, and we hear ourselves say, the number one barrier to innovation, I don't have time to think. But the split second you gave yourself time to think, you walked away from the argument, boom, killer one-liner. Or stepped into the shower, big idea. So how do I get there on demand? You get there on demand by being playful. Why playful? I'll run an energizer because, believe it or not, most of us live in what I call busy beta, the brain state where the door between your conscious and subconscious brain is firmly closed, and we hear ourselves say, I don't have time to think. When you hear yourself say, I don't have time to think, you only have access to 13% of your brain, your conscious brain. My job is to open up the other 87% of your brain, your subconscious brain, by running an energizer, just a fun exercise. I'm listening for laughter. Why am I listening for laughter? Because the moment I hear laughter, I know I've opened that door to metaphorically place you back in the shower where you are when the door is just open wide enough where you can still have a big idea, but you can still make an informed decision. And so that's the importance of playfulness at the right time. Have we got time for an exercise?
Let's do it.
Cool. Right. So I've got $100,000 for a party. So have you. What would you want the theme of the party to be?
Superheroes.
Superheroes it is. I'm going to come at you with some ideas for a superhero party. And I want you to start every single response with the words no because, and tell me why you think we shouldn't be doing it. So I was thinking, right, you could be like the world's greatest villain and I could be Batman.
No, because I don't want the dynamic of kind of good against evil. I want us all to be together.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, so what if we did a Marvel, Star Wars, DC Comics overlay party?
No, because it'll be a bit sameish and kind of all kind of. I'm just not sure. Kind of get the vibe right. Everyone will be out there strutting their stuff, and there'd be no edginess about the whole thing.
Stop there. Would you say our idea was getting bigger or smaller as we were going?
Ooh, it was compressing.
Yeah. So let's try it again. Superhero party. Here we go. This time I want you to start every single response with the words yes and we'll just build it together. So it's an all lycra party.
Yeah, I love that. That's my absolute dream. And also it would make us all look fantastic because we all love wearing full-on lycra. And kind of
yes, and we could all wear capes and then we could actually fly.
And if we flew, we could actually have the food on the ceiling. So people could be grabbing the food and the drinks as they're flying around the room.
Oh, yes. And for the villains, we could give them kryptonite.
And yes, and if they throw the kryptonite at kind of different people, almost they automatically their outfits will change so they only become baddies and they have to fly and they get different things going on for them within the party.
Oh, yes. And we could then have holograms where we bring all the dead superheroes back to life. Yes,
and this is going to be the greatest party of all time, and I can't get beyond the holograms. I want more.
It's okay. So let's stop the exercise there. This time, a lot more energy, a lot more laughter, a lot more hands in the air. Was our idea getting bigger or smaller this time?
The world is our oyster, or not the world, the intergalactic universe.
But far more importantly, when we'd finished building that idea together, whose idea was it?
It's ours.
Ours. Two very simple words from the world of improv that have a remarkable power to transform the power of my idea to our idea. We all work inside big or small companies. We all have hierarchies. We all have approval levels. We all have local constituencies, local governments, regulations. The moment you can transform that power of my idea to our idea is the moment you accelerate its opportunity to get done. If you tend to be a reductionist, always worried about, oh, how am I going to get this done? Just remind yourself, if you're surrounded by people who constantly shoot your ideas down, just remind them, guys, we're not greenlighting this idea for execution today. We are simply greenhousing it together. And particularly when a young person walks into your office with a new idea, please, God, don't let the first words out of your mouth be no, because they ain't coming back.
Duncan Wardle, excited to have you on our next showcase. Can you share me any teasers for the audience to get them excited?
The biggest challenge for most of us is we are being asked by our bosses, by our industries to innovate. And it's probably one of the hardest things to do is to think differently and come up with new ideas. So I'm going to be showcasing with you some very practical tools you can use tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to help you stop thinking the way you always do and to help you think differently and to come up with some moonshot ideas. Look forward to seeing everybody there.
Duncan Wardle, thank you so much indeed for your time. Always
thank you. Pleasure.